Yo, hey, what's going on, sports realists? What is up? What is good in sports, on the internet, in life? I'm Akeem Balaam of the Real Sports Talk, giving you a recap of Game 4 of the Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Indiana Pacers and the Miami Heat from the American Airlines Arena in South Beach in South Florida. For 2 quarters, it looked like it was going to come down to the wire, but that third quarter was pretty much all Miami Heat all the time. And I'm going to get to that in a little bit. But the Miami Heat defeated the Indiana Pacers rather convincingly in this Game 5 by a final score of 90 to 79. And they now go up by a series lead of 3-2 in this series. They are now themselves one win away, of course, from meeting the San Antonio Spurs in the NBA Finals. So the Miami Heat, huge win, very convincing win over the Pacers tonight. But as I said, it actually wasn't all that way pretty much in the first couple of quarters. It actually looked like it was going to be another one of these games that was going to come down to the wire. And there's been a lot of that. I mean, Game 1 was like that, and Game 2 was like that. Both games in Miami were like that, where it came down to the last few seconds, and it looked like it was going to be that way again, at least from those first couple of quarters. It was very competitive. It looked like that the Indiana Pacers were once again sticking to their game plan of really outpowering Miami interiorly in the paint, and you know, it looked like that they were sticking to their game plan as far as that was concerned. They were getting points in the paint. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, their first 29 points were coming from Paul George and Roy Hibbert. So even though that they had that going for them, the fact that they were really dominating inside the paint, it looked like that they were doing for that for those first couple of quarters, and that's why they were able to stay in control, stay in the lead for a lot of the first half. It really, the whole thing about that game, or at least about that game, the first half of that game, was that the Indiana Pacers, even though they were able to maintain some sort of a lead throughout that first half, they were still turning the ball over. They had 9 turnovers at halftime when they led by a score of 44-40, but they had 9 turnovers. And turnovers have been an Achilles heel for the Indiana Pacers for a lot of this series. Even in Game 4, which they won, they had a lot of turnover. They couldn't stop turning over the ball. And one of the keys you figure to this game was that they would have to limit the turnovers to be able to win this Game 5 and keep up with Miami from start to finish. But of course they couldn't do it. The turnovers finally caught up with them a little bit later, and then, you know, everything else just happened as far as that third quarter, and LeBron James was going off, just going crazy off in that third quarter. But I'm going to get into that in a little bit. So even though that they were able to do what they wanted to do in the paint in that first half, they still needed to limit the turnovers. Couldn't do it. Had 9.5. If I remember correctly, had 16 or 17. Had 17 for the game. And you know, there was that exchange in the first half between Chris Birdman Anderson and Psycho T, Tyler Hansbrough. Everybody was going crazy talking about, oh, they need to set up a cage match, a steel cage, a Hell in a Cell between Psycho T and Birdman. It would really be, you know, it would really be like one of those things that would be announced or promoted on some kind of WWE pay-per-view. But we all saw what happened. If we watched the game, there was a little bit of an exchange, and some words were exchanged, and then Birdman pushed Hansbrough down on the ground, and then both had to be restrained. But you know, for some reason, even though they were able to assess Birdman with a flagrant one, you can say that it sort of looked like what happened with Nazr Mohammed and LeBron James in the conference semifinals. So you wonder somewhat why Birdman wasn't ejected, and there's even some talk already, some speculation out there that even though he wasn't ejected from this Game 5, that he is indeed going to be not on the court. In fact, he's going to be suspended for Game 6. So that's just some speculation out there. I don't know what they're going to do to Birdman, but that's just what a lot of people are saying, that if they're not going to eject him from this Game 5, that he is indeed going to be suspended for Game 6 in Indiana. So there was also that was going on. So it was 44-40 at halftime, and it was rather close. And Indiana, if I remember correctly, they scored the first couple of points of the third quarter. And then there was that halftime speech that LeBron James supposedly gave to his teammates, where he really ripped into his teammates, used a lot of curse words, but then again, that's common in the NBA, so no harm, no foul there. But that third quarter really was where, of course, Miami took this game over and pretty much proclaimed, we're still the Miami Heat, we still got the big three, and we're still the team to beat in the East. LeBron James went full beast mode as only he could in that third quarter. That's where Miami wound up winning this basketball game. He scored 16 points in that third quarter. He scored or assisted on 25 of the Miami Heat's 30 points in that third quarter. Miami only had 40 points for the first two quarters, 30 alone in that third quarter. That was where Miami dominated. That was where Miami won, and it turned out to be too tall of a task for the Indiana Pacers to come back from. They tried to, do what a lot of teams wind up doing when they get dominated in the third quarter. They come out a little bit strong in the fourth quarter. They were able to score the first 5 points, but the third quarter was too much, and pretty much the fourth quarter was just, it was just prolonging the inevitable as Miami wound up, turns out, actually, when you take into consideration that third quarter, wound up really coasting to a victory tonight. Final score once again, 90-79. Some final stats as I look back at the way that this game played out. LeBron James, of course, with his 30 points. He himself wound up having 30 points in this game, in addition to the 30 points that the Miami Heat as a team collectively scored in that third quarter. Udonis Haslem also had a pretty big game with 16 points and 8 of 9 shooting. Mario Chalmers with 12, Dwayne Wade with 10, Chris Bosh again with 7 points, the same exact amount of points that he scored in Game 4 in Indianapolis. But of course, the story wound up being LeBron James. So Chris Bosh is going to get a little bit of a mulligan tonight. Nobody is going to be talking about his somewhat subpar performance where he scored only 7 points, had 33 minutes of playing time, and went 3 from 7 for the field. For the Indiana Pacers, Paul George with 27 points, Roy Hibbert with 22, David West with 17, all of course in a losing effort. Nobody else had more than that 17 points. Nobody else had more than 4 points outside of Hibbert, George, and West. That has got to change if they expect to win this Game 6 in Indianapolis and send this series back to Miami for a Game 7. It was not a balanced scoring effort. A lot of things were wrong, even in the first two halves, even though it was close. A lot of things went wrong for the Indiana Pacers because it was not all that much of a balanced scoring attack from them. Nobody else outside of Hibbert, George, and West had more than 4 points. That has got to change if Indy's going to win and prolong this series once again to a Game 7. But a huge victory for the Miami Heat as they once again get one game closer to their third consecutive NBA Finals in the LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh era. Once again, final score 90-79 from Miami. So what you think of the game? Did you watch it? Did you enjoy? Rate, comment, react, reply, add, subscribe. Will Miami win Game 6 or will Indy take this to a Game 7? Look forward to hearing your feedback. So for Tim, Justin, Section 215, Emily, and everybody else here, I'm Akeem Balaam on The Real Sports Talk. Look forward to reading your comments. As always, Miami 90, Indiana 79, Game 5 Eastern Conference Finals. See y'all on the internet someplace for The Real Sports Talk.